From Bermuda Broadcasting, this is ZBM TV 9 News.
Good evening, everyone. It's Monday, February 13th, 2017. I'm Diane Brewer, and thank you for joining us tonight. Topping our news, offended, saddened, dismayed, and alarmed, but not surprised. The reaction today of former Premier Dr. Ewart Brown to police searches carried out at his business premises, Bermuda Healthcare Services and the Brown Darrow Clinic over the weekend. Speaking with Gary Moreno, Dr. Brown contends this is all part of an extremely expensive witch hunt that has so far yielded nothing.
We expected that if they had warrants, they would then make contact with our lawyers or try to find the manager and gain entry. The way they went about it was to try to call a member of the staff who was not high on the list for those who should be called by the alarm company, for example, and threaten him, tell him that there was a security incident at Bermuda Healthcare. So they were trying to trick him into coming down to Bermuda Healthcare and then serve him, I suppose, the warrant and then try to force him to open the door. We were always willing to comply, but we figured that if they had a warrant, they would simply, having met our lawyers in court on more than one occasion, would simply notify the lawyers that they had a warrant and they would like to gain entry.
Have you had any indication from the investigators as to what they were looking for over the weekend?
The court order was rather far-reaching. It basically gave them the right to go in and examine and search everywhere and anywhere, and that's what they did. They spent about 36 hours where they had total control and occupancy of the office.
What, if anything, did the investigators take away from both locations?
We don't know yet. We do know that whatever they took away in boxes, so we have no way of knowing. They didn't leave us with an inventory of what they had taken, and so we have no clue. We're asking staff members to look and see whether they notice anything missing. We do know that the CAT scanner at Brown Darrow, we believed, was somehow rendered dysfunctional as a result of this search, and we were unable to perform CAT scans today at Brown Darrow.
What do you think was the catalyst for this search?
Yes, I think it's the big picture. After 6 years and a considerable amount of embarrassment suffered by the police, they now have to find something, or otherwise they've wasted more than $3 million of taxpayer money. And so they've brought in 3 or 4 people from Scotland Yard to try to get information that was readily available all these years. And I think personally that they're trying to criminalize the situation. There is no crime that has been committed.
What is the next step for Dr. Ewart Brown in all of this?
To continue the fight, number one, to protect my patients' records. I hold that very dear. I don't like the idea of police officers having access to patients' charts. I don't think that Magistrate Wolf, when he signed the court order, intended to have them take patients' private, confidential records away from the facility. That is unheard of in most civilized jurisdictions. This is all tied to the original investigation, which was authorized by Governor Gosney in, I think, June of 2011. The governor then initiated an investigation into what he said was possible bribery and corruption. Over the 6 years, that investigation has now morphed from bribery and corruption to too many CAT scans. That is a reach, and that tells me that what they want is me.
Two former ministers in Dr. Brown's government, Glenn Blakeney and Derek Burgess, have roundly criticized the weekend searches, with Mr. Burgess saying police have gone too far as they attempted to prevent him from entering the Brown Darrow compound on Saturday.
There's no crime been committed. It's not a crime scene. If it's a crime scene, then you better do what you got to do. Nobody can tell me get off this property. It's not your property.
Good.
It's not a crime scene. If it's a crime scene, I respect what you got to do.
Right.
But it's not a crime scene. You can't do that. If you have a warrant to search the property, then search it. You don't have no warrant out here. You guys are going too far, you know. I'm telling you. Keep playing with the people. Keep playing with them.
Elsewhere, it has been confirmed that the patient files taken from Dr. Brown's office were returned at around 1 this afternoon. Police have declined to comment on Dr. Brown's claims, referring us to their statement put out yesterday, saying, quote, police officers from the Organized and Economic Crime Department of the BPS executed search warrants at 2 medical offices on Saturday, February 11th. In connection with an ongoing investigation, the timing of the warrants was intended to minimize the impact on the businesses and their clients. A number of records were seized during the searches. Significant steps have been taken to protect the confidential nature of the information and to ensure that patient safety is not jeopardized in any way, end quote. In other news this evening, OBA Senator Georgia Marshall has stepped down from her position in the Senate after serving 2 years in that role and is replaced by Andrew Simons. But questions arise whether the move is an indication Mrs. Marshall will run as a candidate in the next general election. Jasmine Patterson has more in this report.
There was a brief disruption of this morning's sitting of the upper house to allow the swearing in of Mr. Andrew Simons by President of the Senate Carol Ann Bassett. The move coming as a shock to some today, as the event was not listed on the order paper. However, OBA Senate Leader Michael Fay suggested the reshuffle was business as usual.
Appointments of the Senate are obviously in the full discretion of the Premier, and Andrew Simons has been given a really great opportunity to continue his public service. As you know, he has been an officer in the regiment for a long time as well, so he's not a stranger to public service. Georgia has been a tremendous part of our team for 2 years, and we're proud that we have Andrew to take her place. As you may have heard already in the Senate, she's had a number of accolades from across the floor and from the independent senators about the contribution she made to the Senate proceedings and Bermuda as a whole. I don't think it's a sudden event. These things don't appear on an order paper. It's one of those things in politics. Decisions get made, and we have to continue to move on as you would. We obviously need a seat filled quickly.
Meanwhile, Gary Moreno had the opportunity to speak with the newly appointed Senator Andrew Simons, who explains what he intends to bring to the role.
What I want to focus on is taking time to talk about the details of different pieces of legislation, to explain things as much as possible, and to talk about why it matters to the man in the street. So when we have an act that's, is talking about the land title registry, I think it's important to be able to say, look, this legislation will help you resolve land disputes where your neighbor's wall is encroaching on your land and you don't want to go through a lawyer. Previously you would, and with land title registration, for example, you might be able to avoid that. So I think there is some value in trying to do the work so you can connect with people.
Mr. Simons lost to the PLP's Diallo Rebane in the by-election for Devonshire North Central last February. However, he says the commitment to public service prompted him to step up to the table.
Public service, as you probably will have seen, is always a balance. It's a balance between family commitments, work commitments, and your other involvement. So as you may know, I've spent a number of years as an officer in the regiment. And when I've run in by-elections, I would have to resign my commission, take a step back. So to me, public service is incredibly important. So when offered this role, I went through the process of talking to people. Can I make this work? And I was going to try to make myself useful.
Mr. Simons told us it's too soon to say whether he would consider running in the upcoming general election. Elsewhere, Georgia Marshall issuing a statement reflecting on her time in the Senate, stating, "I have been very grateful for the Premier, and the OBA continue to have my full support." She adds, "I believe Bermuda is going in a positive direction, and all the economic indicators show that the policies of the OBA government are working for the benefit of all Bermudians," end quote. You may recall Mrs. Marshall lost to the PLP's Jamal Simmons in a by-election for constituency number 33 Sand South. Mr. Fay indicated Mrs. Marshall would remain active in political life. Jasmine Patterson reporting for Bermuda Broadcasting News.
Meanwhile, Premier Michael Dunkley thanking the former Senator Georgia Marshall for her dedication in the upper house while explaining the decision to replace her with Andrew Simons was to create a blend of experienced members and freshmen.
It was appropriate to make a change to bring some new talent in, and Senator Marshall, former Senator Marshall, has pulled back from that and allowed that opportunity to happen. Georgia served very well for the couple of years. She's been tireless in her work. She's always been meticulously prepared and spoken well. And that speaks to the strength of our team. As she said in the release, she's fully supportive of myself and our team going forward and looks forward to continue to work to try to improve the affairs of all Bermudians. We're excited to have Senator Simons on board now. He's been a very strong advocate for improving public policy. He's been involved in our party for some time, and he is, I think, well equipped to fill that vacancy and tackle the issues of the day that are very important to all Bermudians. I know he will be well prepared, and I know he brings an aspect that's very important for us as we continue to lead the country forward.
And Mr. Dunkley shot down rumors that Mrs. Marshall was replaced due to her plan to vote against the airport redevelopment project in the Senate.
There's no truth to that whatsoever. You will see in the release that I put out this morning that the former senator is very supportive of myself and our team, and that's not the case at all. I certainly have been very appreciative of the service that Georgia has given, and I would hate to see misinformation like that get out there, because that's not good for her, it's not good for myself, and it's certainly not good for the country.
And you would support her if she puts herself forward to run in the next general election?
Oh, of course. She's been working hard in constituency 33, and I look forward to that to continue. She's made some great inroads in that constituency, helping people on the ground with challenges in their constituency. And one thing about Georgia, when she's committed to a task, she'll give it her all. And so I would expect that to continue on. She's still a valuable part of our team.
Stay with us. More news and tonight's AccuWeather report after the break.
Calling all Bermudian University graduates. Have you considered a fast-paced and rewarding career in financial regulation?
As Bermuda's sole financial services regulator, the Bermuda Monetary Authority plays a key role in our success in the international business arena.
If you are driven, focused, and ready to challenge yourself, then apply to our graduate training program.
Visit bma.bm for details or check out our Facebook page.
We're accepting applications from January 3rd until March 31st.
The Bermuda Monetary Authority's graduate training program.
Challenge yourself.
I have been crazy, but that's just alright. Alright. My feelings, I don't hide them from me. Not, alright. Come and get it if you really want it. Come and get it if you really need it. Come and get it if you really want it. Come and get it if you really need it.
Welcome back. Well, Shadow Home Affairs Minister Walton Brown reiterating his position that the incumbent minister, Patricia Gordon-Pamplin, is abusing the Incentives to Job Makers Act by allowing local grocery store chains to apply for PRCs for 5 non-Bermudian executives. Mr. Brown calling on the OBA to explain why the act is being exploited to include grocery stores.
The intent behind the passing of the Incentive for Job Makers Act was to give a measure of security to those international companies who would not otherwise be here were they not given a security of tenure for their key employees. So from that standpoint, the Incentive for Job Makers Act is targeted toward the international business community to ensure that jobs can remain in Bermuda or be created in Bermuda. To see the act altered and reinterpreted to allow for a chain of grocery stores that has been present on this island for more than 60 years seems to be a distortion and an abuse of this very important piece of legislation. The issue was raised on Friday in Parliament. The minister seemingly took the position that it was a legitimate undertaking, but I certainly will await clarification from our part. But it is a matter of grave concern, because what it means now is that any company seemingly can apply to have its key executives removed from permit control, which means, one, those jobs will never again be available to any Bermudian to even apply for. Two, it demonstrates that the OBA is not seemingly concerned enough to ensure that Bermudians get equal opportunity for jobs.
Home Affairs Minister Patricia Gordon-Pamplin, however, rubbishes Mr. Brown's assertions.
Let me say that within the department, we try to deal with our clients and their applications on a confidential basis, and we certainly would never have addressed this issue with the degree of specificity that the Shadow Minister has expressed. The application to which he referred came into the department on the 22nd of December. When an application comes in, it is vetted in every way, shape, or form. Firstly, to determine whether a company is eligible for concessions with respect to job makers, and then specific applications are looked at as far as individuals are concerned. That process takes weeks because they have to go through and do all sorts of vetting. None of that has been done in this instance. Let me also say that the department does not allow people to make applications. Any company can look at the legislation, determine whether they wish to make an application. The only thing over which the department has control is how we respond to applications that have been made. So I think that MP Brown is not just wrong, he is just completely off base, and I might add, out of order.
Will the position taken by Mr. Brown impact the decision on this application at all?
I look at facts that are put in front of me, and I have the ability to opine on the facts. I shut out the noise, and as I said, what MP Brown has said is most unfortunate, albeit not surprising. It's politics at its worst. Find out the facts before you go spouting off at the mouth. And I think that he has not found out the facts. He's spouted off, and he's done a disservice to the process. Will it impact a decision? Most likely not. The decision will be based on the facts that are put in front of me and the recommendations that come from the technical officers once they complete all of the underlying research that needs to be done. Recommendations will be made, and then I will opine accordingly.
In other news this evening, police say around 1:45 p.m. on Saturday, officers responded to a reported robbery at Sands Laundromat on Somerset Road. It appears that an unknown male culprit entered the business brandishing a bladed article. Apparently, the suspect then escaped with cash and jewelry taken from the 84-year-old male owner and 27-year-old male customer that were on the premises at the time. However, neither man was injured. Inquiries continue, and witnesses or anyone who may have seen a 5'8" tall man of average build, wearing dark-colored clothing and shoes, acting suspiciously near the Sandy's Laundromat at around 1:45 p.m. on Saturday, should contact the Criminal Investigation Department on 247-1744. In business news, Bermuda remains the world leader in the captive insurance industry, based on 2016 statistics released by the Bermuda Monetary Authority today, with year-end BMA figures showing Bermuda had 776 active captive licenses on its register. Ross Weber, CEO of the Bermuda Business Development Agency, says, quote, "The Bermuda Monetary Authority figures reaffirm the island's status as a global leader in the captive insurance market, with more overall captives registered than any other jurisdiction." According to Mr. Weber, it's important to note that Bermuda held its #1 position, a top captives domicile, despite challenging market conditions that have reduced the year-over-year global total of captives registered. Jeremy Ramsey, Business Development Manager at the BDA, noted Bermuda continues to positively differentiate itself from other captive domiciles in terms of quality of both the companies it attracts and the business they write. Bermuda captives wrote $55.3 billion at latest count, which more than quadruples posted premiums in the closest competing domiciles. Mr. Ramsey adds the BDA would continue to lead aggressive business development efforts overseas, particularly in Latin America, Canada, and relevant regions across the United States, where the majority of Bermuda captive formations originated. Now turning to weather news, a mix of sun and cloud with a few light showers for our Tuesday. Here's the latest from AccuWeather headquarters.
AccuWeather is presented by BF&M Insurance Group. We now go to AccuWeather headquarters.
This evening's forecast brought to you by the BF&M Insurance Group. I'm AccuWeather's Shanae Shocker. Well, today, definitely a dreary one. A cold front passing through has brought quite a bit of shower activity across the Bermuda region. We take a look at our satellite and radar here, and you can see this front very starkly staying here. It's associated with this area of low pressure, a big storm off towards our north and our east. Now, throughout tonight, that's going to continue to pull off towards the north, and this cold front going to dip off towards our south and our east. However, moving into tomorrow, there's going to be some lingering moisture here. So these showers that you're seeing definitely not going to be as strong, but we are going to stick with a few in the forecast for tonight and into tomorrow as well. As far as our humidity goes, 70-75% as this front continues to push through the region. Our winds out of the west-southwest, 22 to 26 knots. And waves definitely a lot higher, so our high tide's going to be very dangerous as we head into the evening hours and into tomorrow as well. Waves outside the reef, 10 to 18 feet. These will begin to subside as we head into tomorrow. But for tonight, we'll stick with mainly cloudy conditions, very gusty winds out here, 45 miles per hour. Can't rule out the chance of those showers continuing, and that's also going to continue into tomorrow as well. Our winds going to decrease, especially throughout tomorrow afternoon. Our high 64 degrees, so it's cooling down quite a bit heading into our evening hours. Now look at our high tide for tonight, 10-19. This is the high tide you're going to want to be aware of, especially because of these winds staying pretty high. That means we're seeing some swells off from the north and definitely dangerous conditions out near the waters here. That's also sticking with us into our morning high tide right around 10:30 tomorrow. Taking a look at your gateway forecast, well, Toronto continuing to see a couple of snowflakes with an area of low pressure pushing into the region. That's bringing a storm here. But New York into Boston finally going to be able to relax just a touch on your Tuesday. Boston, a high of 35 degrees. Atlanta, mostly cloudy conditions. That's also dipping down into Miami as well. Now across the Central Caribbean, a couple of showers. We do have a lagging cold front sitting across the region. So that's where we're seeing those showers, although our winds are fairly light. So for our Tuesday, a couple of showers around the region. Wednesday looks like we're going to get a break, but overnight Wednesday into Thursday, we're going to start to see another front pass through mostly Thursday afternoon into the evening hours. So winds going to pick up once again. We will see most likely a small craft warning in effect with the passing of this front, and we'll cool back off as we head into the weekend as well. So make sure you do tune into your local radio stations, Ocean 89, Power 95, and Inspire 105 for all your weather news and updates.
AccuWeather was presented by BF&M Insurance Group.
Oh, hey guys.
We want you back, Linda.
Look, we just don't need to count you anymore. Our new Certa Perfect Sleeper helps solve 5 common sleep problems.
We can change!
Can you support us as much as our Perfect Sleeper?
No.
Then I'm sorry.
Wait, is Jerry around?
He is sleeping.
I think she's coming around.
Stop counting sheep to get to sleep. Discover the perfect mattress for you at Bermuda's largest sleep center. Big Savings Zone, Southside, St. David's.
Every day, a tsunami hits Bermuda. A tidal wave of information and images floods our phones, laptops, and tablets. We're awash in emails, posts, tweets, blogs, texts. As an advertiser, your message can easily get drowned out. Time to reach for the life raft. Technology changed the game, but television and radio still lead the way. Who doesn't have an all-time favorite TV ad?
Affleck, where's the beef? You can count on us.
The man your man could smell it.
TV remains the most powerful advertising tool in the world. For immediacy and engagement, you can't beat radio. Here at Bermuda Broadcasting, we can help you reach thousands of people at the same time. You might have a new small business or run a corporation. We can customize ads to help you build awareness and attract new customers. TV and radio advertising gets results. Call me, Diane Brewer, and I'll show you how. Turning to sports, the weekend was full of sporting activity for Bermudians both near and far. Earl Basin has a look at just some of those sports performed.
Dalray Rollins and his England under-19 teammates ended day one of their four-day match against India with a score of 311-1. Max Holden is 135 not out, while George Barnett is 132 not out. Rollins is due to bat nats. While on Saturday, Kamal Lavrock and his ICC Americas teammates went down by 5 wickets in their final West Indies Regional 50-over tournament against Jamaica, with Lavrock scoring 14. And finally, in cricket news, Lionel Can has left his post as coach of Warwick Workmen's Club for the upcoming cricket season. There was no change at the top of the Premier and First Division standings following this weekend's action, with the North Village Rams, PHC Zebras, and Robin Hood all remaining first, second, and third following narrow victories. North Village Rams lead the league with 32 points following their 1-0 win over the Flanagan's Onions, who remain in 9th place. PHC Zebras are in second with 31 points after they defeated the bottom of the table Devonshire Colts 2-1. Robin Hood moved on to 29 points for third place following their 1-0 win over fourth place Devonshire Cougars, while 7th place Dandytown Hornets held 5th place Boulevard Blazers to a 2-2 draw. 6th place Somerset Trojans defeated 8th place Somerset Eagles 2-1 on Saturday night up at the Somerset Cricket Club. The gap in the First Division for the league title is now down to 2 points, as leaders Young Man Social Club got a last-minute goal from Sakai Tuzo on Saturday night to draw a 1-1 with BAA, while second place Crossroads defeated 5th place St. George's Colts 2-1. Third place St. David's defeated Hamilton Parish, who are in 9th place, 7-1, while 8th place Wolves drew 1-1 with 6th place Paget Lions. 7th place Southampton Rangers drew 3-3 with 10th place in the First Division Island Rangers. Naki Wells and his Huddersfield teammates boosted their promotion hopes by defeating QPR 2-1 at Loftus Road, with Wells scoring this winner. In a field of 57 competitors, Bermuda's Winter Olympic hopeful Matthew Lejour finished 35th, competing on the NORAM skiing tour in Killington, Vermont. Competing in the singles, Lejour clocked a time of 45.50 and he had a score of 67.44. Bermuda pair Dej Miners and Lamont Marshall took to the track in the BU David Henry Valentine's Track and Field Indoor Invitational. Miners won the 800 meters with a time of 1:48.97, which was just 27/100th of a second of his national best time he set back on January 27th. Miners followed up an hour later with his second fastest time in the Northeast 10 Conference thus far in the winter in the 400 meters, when he was clocked at 48.67, which was good enough for 21st place, and he's now met the NCAA Championship Provisional qualifying mark. Marshall took part in the men's 3,000-meter run, where he finished 5th overall out of 182 competitors. He stopped the clock in a time of 8:08.69. On the National Sports Center track on Sunday, the Bermuda National Athletic Association hosted yet another Carifta trial. It was another day at the office for high jumpers Sakari Famous, Elijah Darrow, and Kevin Miller, as they all met the standard yet again, while it was near misses for some others. Danielle Smith clocked 12.93 in the under-20 girls 100-meter dash, with the standard being 12 seconds flat. Devontae Lodge recorded a time of 11.66, with the under-18 boys 100-meter qualifying standard set at 11.03. 13-year-old Amali Othman reached 1.50 meters in the under-18 girls high jump, with the Carifta standard for the age group being 1.55 meters. Zakaya Lewis leaped 5 meters in the under-18 girls long jump, with the standard set at 5.45 meters. Chase Smith and Laura Wright ran to victory in the 2017 Ed Sherlock 10K road race yesterday. Smith clocked a winning time of 34.56. Tim Price finishing second in 36.58.
Imagine your home working as hard as you, harnessing the power of the sun. While you work, we work. Think solar with BAE. Imagine more power, more often with BAE.
And that's our newscast for tonight. I'm Diane Brewer. Thank you for sharing your Monday evening with us, everyone. Don't forget that tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Good night.